Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our first live feed update for Big Brother 21. We're here. We're doing it. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and joining me today is the amazing Aman. How you doing, Aman?
I'm great, Taran. Great to be back. Season 21, first update of the season. And yeah, this is I love Big Brother. I'm just so glad to be back. It's like Christmas in the summer. If it were July, I would say Christmas in July, but it's June, so I can't.
Yes, if you are joining us for the first time for a live feed update because you were like, hey, let me check those things out. This is, of course, the podcast where I'm going to inform you about everything that's been happening, or at least everything relevant that's been happening on the Big Brother live feeds. However, this first live feed update is a little bit different than most of them because it's less about like what are the events that happened last night and more about like where is the house right now and what is happening, where are people aligned, what's the plan, who are these people. So this is less a play-by-play and more like detective sort of all right,
together.
Let's talk about what Katherine's doing. So that's how we're going to approach this update, just trying to get the lay of the land here.
Yes, it was I definitely, I did the one for BB21 as well, the first update, and yeah, it's a lot of putting puzzle pieces together, trying to figure out who's talking to who's lying to who, like just all the alliances, which there seems to be. Well, we'll talk about it, but it seems to be there's a lot going on right now, and it was definitely a mental exercise trying to remember what was said, and I even had to like flashback while the feeds were still going on to just try and really piece everything together because I was missing stuff. So hopefully we get it all sorted out and we get all the viewers and all the listeners situated to go into the first week of Big Brother season 21.
Yes. And of course, we are live on YouTube and, all the other places that we're normally live to. And you can join us in the YouTube chat if you want to watch live and chat along. And then, of course, this podcast will be uploaded to the feeds, all the feeds, the podcast feeds.
Yes, I have to. I just like updated my phone and I just realized that it like got rid of like RHAP RHAP ups and like so I'm like slacking right now, but
boy,
that's all right. I'll get it situated.
We do have a live chat room going right now, and they have already informed me that apparently Cliff just gave us a shout out.
Oh, really?
They're speculating that maybe he knows it's update time, but I guess he just
he
shouted me out.
definitely knows it's update time because he was talking about it in the interview. So like he has to know it's 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. That's amazing. Congrats, Karen.
Yes. So, ideally, Cliff will just wake up and, maybe he could, if he can start at 10:30, he can give us his own update.
Yes.
Who knows?
Telepathy. You know what, Cliff? Yes, that would be so perfect. Every 10:30 a.m. every morning, just give us the quick lowdown. Just in case you missed any, little chatterings, or just give us your own point of view of what's going on. That would be absolutely amazing.
It would be amazing. However, one of the things that we discovered last night is that the house guests were told they are not allowed to talk to the cameras. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Why?
Ovie was trying to do like a little cooking show, and Tommy goes up to him and he's like, "Hey, I thought we weren't allowed to do that, to talk to the cameras." And Ovie was like, come on, this is our show. We should be able to do what we want. He's like, I don't know, man. They really said.
That's brilliant. Maybe it has something to do with it being the first night of feeds, and they really just wanted them to just converse with one another. But that just seems really weird. Like they always talk to the cameras. It's just part of the nature of the game. Like,
yeah.
That's so strange. I hope that's not a permanent thing, or if it's a rule, I hope it's a loose rule that they don't really enforce too much.
Yeah, it seems like it's strange. It seems like the sort of direction they've been going in for the last few seasons, that they really have. It seems like there's been a lot less camera talk, and that they've really been sort of pushing for that. So
I did notice that, like in the past couple of seasons, like I mean, Big Brother 18 in particular, I remember the feeds were like wild the first night, and they were all like trying to get attention of the cameras. And then as it went like 19, 20, and now to 21, like last night in particular, I did notice like they mentioned it, like they were like, "Oh, we're probably live now," and then they stopped talking about it, and they would just go back to what they were doing. So, I mean, I guess it's a little bit less annoying to like have less of the camera pandering to America thing, but I mean, it's still Big Brother. Like they know they're live, but
Yeah.
whatever.
All right. Well, let's try to do our best here to get you caught up on what's happening in the house. The main bullet points here, of course, if you've been following along, you already knew this, but we do, obviously we saw in the episode last night as well that Christy is in fact the HOH. Nothing has happened. It hasn't been taken away from her or anything along those lines. And when we got the feed leak, the audio leak, we found out that she planned on nominating Katherine and Cliff, and it seemed as though Katherine was her target and Cliff was her pawn. She did, in fact, follow through with those nominations with Cliff as a pawn. However, the plan for who is going to be targeted is not quite as straightforward as it seemed. In fact, it looks like Kemi is actually a backdoor target for this week, and it is not entirely clear whether this was the plan all along or if this is something that changed after the initial plan. I'm leaning toward it something that changed. I think that in particular, people talked about Kemi a few days ago, really, naming a lot of names, really coming for a lot of people, talking too much strategy. I think in particular, Kemi seems to really trust Bella and has probably talked a lot of smack to Bella, and Bella was not trustworthy and ratted her out. And I think that probably has a lot to do with this, but it does seem as though Kemi is in a lot of trouble as the backdoor target for this week.
Yeah, I was really really hurting for the first week of feeds because it's kind of like it just there's so many gaps to the story. And I really would like to see what exactly was the demise of Kemi. Was she? Because I have to imagine she wasn't the only person in that house talking game and throwing names out there. I mean, it's the first week. As much as people said that they're not going to, go hard at eventually, especially now that they threw in that twist in the first night, people are going to start naming names. People are going to start getting bitter with one another. People are going to start forming little, alliances. So I'm very, very. I'm just I really enjoyed Kemi preseason. I really did, and to see this happen, and it's not lost on me that this is also the second African American house guest that seems to be the target week one. It's very frustrating, and I don't know, man. Like I'm gonna leave it up to that. I really, really, really wish that we could have seen the first week because that would really answer a lot of things for me, and it would bring a lot more clarity to the situation because what is so I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but we obviously know that there's some big alliance going on right now, so I know that has a lot to do with it. And it just really sucks that we weren't able to see how all of that, how Kemi interacted. One thing that I will say about Kemi is that she didn't really seem very talkative last night. It seemed like that she was a part of conversations, but sort of like just like an outlier, and just you can tell that she's sort of like been on the outs for a while, and it was really just kind of uncomfortable to watch. So
yeah. It's definitely been, I think, a lot of talk has immediately, because this is, of course, all that we want to be talking about when Big Brother starts, but immediately has been about, unfortunately, because it has to be, because of the targets here, initial targets, David going first, Kemi now being the second person that's targeted, and the next person in line is, it's Ovie, who... it's like, okay, well, all right, this doesn't seem great.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are out there saying, well, people are they're playing the game, they're doing what's best for their game, and that can be true, but just if you look at it, it's I just think that you're remiss if you don't take this and look and be like, wait, like, this doesn't really look great, you know. And the fact that it seems to be mainly coming from Jackson. I mean, I'm not, like I said before, we haven't seen the first week, so it's really hard to fill in the gaps and see who planted the first seed. What was the impetus for all of this to happen? And without that context, it really lets your mind wander. And of course, like Taran just said, like, we don't want to have to talk about this. We don't want to have to, like, I certainly don't want to have to feel this way. I love Big Brother, so it's like, it's a frustrating situation, especially coming off of last night's episode with David's exit. It's frustrating, to say the very least. So
yeah. So that's the current state of the targets here, but we do have to talk about the alliances that we sort of know of here, and then maybe we'll go one by one through the players and talk about where they're situated. But what we saw on the episode was an alliance that I believe started with Jack, Jackson, and Bella. I think it was just those three. Maybe Nick was involved. I don't remember. And then it expanded to an alliance of 6 that was Jack, Jackson, Nick, Bella, Holly, and who's one other person? Christy, of course.
Christy,
who won the HOH. That alliance has expanded yet again, from what we can tell, and it has expanded to also include Tommy, which is not surprising at all considering his connection to Christy. And it also includes Annalise, who goes by Sis. And of course, Jackson, as we've talked about before, but if you're sort of new to this, Jackson goes by Mickey, but also they sometimes call him Jackson, and I really hate them for all of this.
Yeah, I mean, why go through all of that, switcheroos if you're just gonna, continue to go back and forth? It's really annoying. Just choose one. You guys, the Jackson at 6, or are you the Mickey Mouse Club? I need y'all to decide. Like, come on.
Yes. So this has blossomed into an alliance of 8, and this alliance of 8 is also it's a secret. Nobody knows about it, and it has further tendrils of influence here. That Katherine is, of course, linked up with Holly. She has a good relationship with Holly. We have somewhat credible information that they knew each other outside of the house. Nobody seems to know about that quite yet. And Katherine is also attached to Mickey, and that it seems like she's really into Mickey, but Mickey seems like he's like, yeah, but we gotta be separate. We gotta be distant. And so I don't really see them being that close, but he does want to keep her around, as far as I'm aware. And then we also have Sam, our truck. He drives truck. He is also attached to this alliance from the sort of bro side of it. That he has a seemingly pretty good relationship with Nick and Jack. He and potentially Holly as well. Or sorry, not Holly, Bella as well. And so he is also sort of involved in the planning and the Kemi backdoor, but not an official member of the alliance, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, they're comfortable talking around him. So he's sort of like an ancillary. Is that the correct term?
Yeah.
Yeah. Person in the alliance. Probably the most exposable, but they were able to. I mean, Bella and Nick were able to sort of like joke around with Kemi being the target in front of him. So it seems like he's at least on Nick's. He's like he's like a Nick proxy. So yeah.
Yes.
There seems to be already this alliance of 8 seems to already have like its bearings in like multiple sides of the house, which is kind of cool. As far as like the Katherine and Jackson thing, I wanted to mention, I'm like completely fine if that does not coalesce into some sort of showmance, because in a season where there are already people that know each other, I'm good. I think we have enough dudes as it is. I'm sure more will blossom, but if they're not going to be showmances, I'm good. Especially considering CBS just keeps giving us these damn Love Island commercials every turn. So like, I'm good. I'm so good.
Don't even get me started on Love Island. Because apparently Love Island, I've heard, is the show that got BB UK canceled. And so the fact that they're like so aggressively targeting the Big Brother audience is just so alarming.
Yeah, I heard about that, and it's yeah. I mean, it's really looking like they're trying to replace it. Like, if you love Big Brother, you're gonna love this. And so, yeah, I'm kind of scared, but
Yeah.
we're gonna hold on to hope.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. Not my favorite commercials. All right. So we have this alliance of 8, which is really an alliance of 10 in terms of how many people they have under their influence. They will be getting likely Kemi out this week through the back door, which would mean that they have 10 out of 14 players. This is a very dominant force in the game right now, and like I said, they are secret, and they have connections that are from outside of the house, so very strong bonds within the alliance to keep them set. However, there are cracks in the alliance. We'll get to those in a little bit, but they are right now definitely running the game. Christy obviously being HOH. The remaining 4 people, or remaining 5 people really, Kemi obviously very much on the outs, looking like she might even go home this week. However, of course, this is a whole week to campaign. You never know. But right now, based on what we've seen, Kemi is in a lot of trouble. Ovie is also a bit of an outcast. Nobody really seems to like him from what we heard, or at least that's what was said. People find him a little creepy. People just don't like him. He's really awkward. They're just not a fan of Ovie. You got Jessica, who people are more like kind of lukewarm on based on my read here. She seems to be aware that there's some kind of alliance going on, and but is talking to all the wrong people about it. You've got Cliff, who's just doing his best to survive and seems to be doing a pretty good job. A lot of people really love Cliff and want him to stay this week, regardless of the outcome of the veto competition. You've got Nicole, who seems to kind of just be like, just don't look at me. Just let me hang out with you, and everything will be cool. And then, am I forgetting one person here?
Nicole, Cliff. We talked about Sam. I think that's it, right?
I think I might be missing one person, but it's all right.
Annalise is in the. I think that. Well,
maybe I got them all. Maybe I did.
I think you got them all.
All right, so those are the people on the outside of this sort of big alliance here. So that's really how the house is kind of situated. This big alliance and the people on the outside, and the big alliance, their targets are basically get out Kemi, get out Ovie, get out Jessica, and then maybe Nicole from there. Who knows? But that's sort of the target order here.
Yeah, I felt so bad for Cliff like last night, because they were in the boat room a lot of the time last night, and you could tell that Cliff was just getting so sleepy, and he would close his eyes for like a minute at a time and wake back up, and it's just like, oh my god, like he's trying so hard to maintain his social standing in this house, because as we know, like he knows that the old people go first, and I think that even though that people are feeling comfortable enough to talk about, because Katherine and Jackson were talking about targeting Kemi in front of him. So like I even though they want him to feel comfortable, you just never know, especially with this veto comp coming up. Like you never know what could happen. So I felt really bad that he was like fighting his sleep to stay awake. But yeah, it's I'm big alliances are fine. They happen all the time at the beginning of the game, but that's the best way to go, is to get yourself in a big one. I am happy to see that there are potential cracks going on, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it makes it a lot easier to sort of like follow this earlier in the game when there's a big alliance, because you kind of everybody has a situated target. But I do kind of wish I am sort of like lamenting the absolute nature that seems to be so early on in the game. I would have like liked if he turned on the feeds and it was just like everything everywhere. As much as it would have been harder to piece that together, it would have made for such a much more interesting, lay of the land. But this is fine. I'm sure, like we said before, things were going to change. So we just have to ride it out until Wednesday.
Yes, we were definitely spoiled last year when Big Brother 20 kicked off, and it was like, oh, Tyler's with Swaggy and his people. Oh, wait, he's lying to them. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So, it would have been great if we found out Christy was lying to them, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, and I really thought that might have been the case too, because and I saw people on Twitter being like, you know what, I'm gonna withhold judgment until Chrissy says something. You know what, you're right. And then a mere hour later, it's confirmed, and I'm like, okay, well, there goes that.
Yeah. So within this big set of alliances, we also have some subgroups happening. I do want to say that the veto players were picked last night. So obviously Christy, Cliff, and Katherine will be competing alongside Nicole, Jack, and Sam. Pretty much everyone feels very confident that regardless of who wins, that this veto will be used, and that means Kemi will be going on the block. It's just a matter of whether she's up next to Cliff or Katherine. It does seem like she probably would have a better chance of staying if Cliff came off the block and she was up next to Katherine, because Katherine is just a ball of paranoia and suspicion and like lunacy.
And she was already crying last night.
Yeah. And so that's going on. Christy wants to throw the veto, but they're pretty solid that they feel like Nicole will use the veto on Cliff, Jack will use the veto on Cliff, Sam will use the veto on Cliff, Cliff will use the veto on Cliff, and then Katherine will obviously use it on herself. So that's sort of what it's looking like right now in terms of this veto competition.
And honestly, had Kemi been picked, it would have been the same crap, because Kemi was like, I'm throwing it, and I'm like, oh girl, damn. I'm just so like, there's no way out of this now. Like you literally have to depend on Katherine letting her anxiety get the best of her and annoying the shit out of it, annoying the hell out of everybody until Wednesday, because you weren't even going to try and save yourself. So it's not looking good for Kemi at all.
It's not. She is being hardcore snowed by Bella. She really feels like she has a friend in Bella, and it is not the case.
Props to Bella, because she said this is what she was going to do. I mean, honestly, you know what? I'll wait on that, because we don't really know. Well,
because the thing is, like, this is fantastic acting and fantastic, like, sort of like manipulation, in the sense of like she's really playing Kemi hardcore, but it's a matter of, is this the right thing for her to be doing, to be selling Kemi out like this? If Kemi is so enamored by Bella, like, is she just like burning an ally is like so quickly? Is this the right move? We'll have to wait and see on that one. We don't know enough, but I love the cutthroatedness. I'm not completely sold on the like how worth it is.
Right. I was like, I'm not really sure if this is. That's why you need to see the first week, so that I can really, just see just how strong of a relationship that you guys have. Because if this was something like where you weren't even, if Kemi wasn't even on Isabella's radar as far as alliances go, okay, well then fine, whatever, cut her throat, whatever. It is what it is. But if you had like seriously garnered a friendship with this person, and to the point where it seems like that's what it's coming across on the feeds. And if you're just so willing to just like nip it in the bud this quickly, especially considering the side alliances that people in your group of 6 have, then I don't know. But this might come back to bite you. We'll see.
Yes. All right. So let's get into these sort of side alliances, these groupings. Nick seems to be in a pretty good spot. He was one of the people I was most impressed by watching last night. He is definitely who he portrayed himself to be. He is very outspoken, very loud. However, he seems to be very well connected as well. He, as I mentioned, has this connection with Sam. They seem to be pretty tight. He seems to have a very close relationship with Bella, to the point where who was it? Was it Katherine? Somebody saw them like in bed together and thought they were making out. And so he has a good relationship with her. He has a good relationship with Jack, and he has a very close relationship with Tommy as well. They seem to have some kind of side project going on between the two of them. So Nick is very well connected. He actually likes Kemi. In fact, he said he loves Kemi, but he understands that she's been saying people's names, and he is willing to let her go, even though he personally doesn't feel the need to send her home.
Right. Which, yeah, like he did mention that. And I feel like I agree. Like Nick seems to be doing pretty well. He also seems to be one of the funniest people in there. He seems to really know how to, hold court in a room and make people laugh and sort of like build a sense of community. And it just seems like he's done a good job of insulating himself well. And I think part of the reason is because of the fact that he is sort of outspoken and he is sort of like an open book, in more or less. And I think that is an attractive thing for people so early in the game, because they feel like they can trust you. They feel like they can, come to you with anything. They feel like that, they are going to get what they get when they see you. So, yeah, he seems to have done a pretty good job so far. And yeah, I forget who it was. It might have been Melissa that tweeted this. I don't remember. Maybe 2 days ago, like about like them like sort of like getting baby Derek vibes from him. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe a little bit in there. I mean, especially considering his profession, like he's a therapist, so he's able to sort of like calm people down, but also offer perspective and sort of like observe things from a higher vantage point than most people might be able to. So he seems to be doing a good job so far. I'm definitely interested to see where he goes.
Yes, and it seems like Tommy might know his real job. They had an interaction where Tommy said something along the lines of like, "Hey, have you told anyone else about your job?" So it appears to be that is actually his closest connection in the house, and which I think is good for him, because Tommy obviously has the Christie connection, and then outwardly, more publicly, it seems like Nick is more connected to people like Sam and Jack, and again, they were talking a lot, like they were very bro-y in that threesome there that they were talking about at one point. I think one of the things Nick said was like, "Oh, if it's best for the guys to take Kemi out, then that's what we'll do." So they seem to have some sort of guy bro kind of thing happening a little bit there. So speaking of Sam is, as I said, attached to Nick and Jack to some extent. He seems to be kind of like the guy. He's a little bit on the outside. He kind of knows about the plan. He at one point was like, "Hey, like Christy knows I'm a part of this, right? Like I'm totally a part of what's happening, right?" He is definitely just kind of a side piece that's being dragged along, and he seems to be mostly okay with it for now.
Yeah, I think as long as it's a numbers game, and as long as you are in with those numbers, that's all you can really do right now. And just make as long as it's not you, and you're on the right side of the vote. I think that's pretty much where Sam's concerns are lying right now. So hopefully that's not enough for him. Hopefully he knows enough about the show. I don't know if he does. Hopefully he knows when to kick it into high gear if need be. So we'll see. I mean, I feel as far as like Nick is concerned, I feel like Sam probably has nothing to worry about. I feel like if Nick is able to recognize when he should let somebody go, as in Kemi, he's probably also able to recognize when he should keep somebody around. So I feel like as long as Nick is around, and I feel like Sam will probably be around as well. So,
yes. Then we do have Jack, the third guy in this kind of threesome happening. Jack, according to Jackson, Jackson Mickey, is in love with Christy. And we did have some body language to kind of back that claim up. He does seem to like Christy a lot. There was some, arm around her. There was some hand holding.
Head banging.
Yes. Christy, obviously not particularly interested in anything romantic, and we haven't seen anything solid from Jack to confirm that he is actually romantically interested in Christy in any way. But at the very least, they are very close and very publicly close as well. People are very aware of how close they are, and so aware that Jackson is jealous. He doesn't like it. Our friend, I keep calling him, again, Jackson, Mickey. Hopefully this will get sorted out eventually. But Mickey is not fond of Jack's relationship with Christy. And these are the cracks that I was talking about in the foundation of this alliance. Jack is apparently Mickey was like, Jack, he's my final two. Let's go. I love my bro. He's so good looking and handsome. And then he told Jack some things. I don't know what the things were. And Jack apparently told Christy about the things that Mickey told him, and Mickey felt betrayed. His trust had been betrayed. His confidence had been broken, and he doesn't like that. He feels like that's not great, so he's not super fond of what's happening there. And so there's a little bit of a crack there. Holly is also a little bit anti-Jack. She talked a lot about how Jack is dangerous. She was one of the people planting seeds with Mickey. She was also later planting seeds with Sis about Jack and about how, he's really good looking. He's manipulative. He's smart. Like, this is a guy we have to watch out for. And this is a guy that I think a lot of other people are going to be using as a shield for a while before he finally goes, because he's just too big of a target. So he seems to be connected to Christy. He's connected to Nick. His connection to Mickey seems to be fading, but he is still well insulated within this alliance for now. But he might be at the center of the cracks that happen when this alliance hopefully splits apart soon.
Right. And it's looking like, even Christy is sort of, outwardly, it appears as though the two of them are pretty close. But, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit because this conversation happened a little later. But even Christy, is, telling the girls, like, look, I am not here for any kind of showmance. I'm going to, which she needs to really stop doing this, because it seems like she said it at least 5 times last night. I am here to win. I'm here to win. I'm here to win. Girl, stop.
Christy talks a little too much, I think.
Yeah. But as far as Jack goes, it looks like, even she, if the time comes where Jack needs to go, she probably won't, hesitate to do that. So, yeah, I'm worried for Jack, because I like Jack, and, it's not just thirst speaking. I think he's a pretty good guy. I don't know. He just seems like a nice guy. So I was interested in seeing him play this week. So I'm kind of sad that he seems to sort of like be, at the centerpiece of the crack. But, once again, we have a ways to go. So who knows what will happen, and we'll see.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a role reversal from what I expected. I expected sort of Mickey to be the guy out in front and Jack to kind of be the loyal soldier, but it's actually starting to look more like Jack is the guy out in front, and Mickey is more of the guy that a lot of people are looking at but don't see as quite as threatening, because he along with everyone else fell in love with Jack. And
didn't Jack even say, like, I think he told Christy and whoever else was in the boat room, oh yeah, I have Jackson eating out of my hands. Like, I'm definitely, able to influence him or something like that. So it definitely seems like maybe there is like more of like you're right. Maybe he is more of the the aggressor in the alliance more so than Mickey.
Yes, and Jack also is one of the primary forces, in my opinion, based on what I saw, in targeting Kemi. That Jack is one of the people that Kemi was talking about, that the information got out, and so he has been really pushing for Kemi to go. And that's why when Nick was talking to Jack, he was like, I get it that it's better for your game if Kemi goes. Personally, I don't really care to see her go, but that's fine. I'm willing to let her go. Ovie is the other person that they're talking about targeting. Nick would prefer to see Ovie go personally, but Jack says, nah, I mean, Ovie can go, but he doesn't have to go because he's like, he loves me. He's in love with me. He loves me so much that he'll do whatever. So we don't need to get rid of Ovie quite yet. So Jack likes to talk about people like being in his power. He said a few times as well that he would control the vote for the eviction vote for this week. That whichever way he wanted it to go, it would go. So that's interesting to know. And by the way, he said that if the nominations do stay the same somehow, that he would prefer for Cliff to stay over Katherine. So if he's right that he can control the vote, Cliff would be all right if the veto was not used. But it does look like the veto will probably be used.
Right. I'm just going to say, like, on a personal note, my draft is in shambles. I had David, Kemi, Katherine, and Tommy. And I already lost David, and I'm definitely going to lose either Kemi or Katherine this week. I'm just like, ooh, hopefully David comes back in on Thursday or Wednesday, because this ain't looking good for me. But
you got Tommy.
I do have Tommy, but like, it's also a point system draft. So like, the more players I lose, like, I'm already in the negative. But you know what? I just had to be self-indulgent for a second. But yeah.
All right, so that was Jack. Let's move on to Holly, who is, as I mentioned, seemingly targeting Jack. Holly mentioned that she finds him very threatening, that he's very manipulative. She went to Mickey with that. Mickey seemed to be on board, and they were talking about like, hey, like, how long are we gonna ride this thing? Because Jack and Christy are running this house, and something needs to be done about it eventually. Mickey said that, you know, hey, if I had like a secret power week 3, I'd probably make a move on Christy or something along those lines. And then he was like, but no, I don't want Christy to go. I like Christy, and I like Jack too. It kind of felt like he was saying something and then realized I shouldn't be saying this. I don't know how much I can trust this person. But they do seem to have a decent connection. There seems to be a little bit of a trio-ish thing going on between Mickey, Holly, and Katherine. Only Katherine is not an equal member. She is somebody that they don't tell things to, but are dragging along as a number. Holly later talked to Sis, who is Annalise, and she talked to her about, again, Jack being threatening and dangerous, and Sis was just like, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's so good looking. He's like so amazingly attractive, but you're right. He's really dangerous. I mean, it's just that he's so good looking. I sometimes I just stare at him and I just like lose myself. Like, I don't know why they put, like, why we brought him. He's just so distracting. I mean, he's really good looking, but like, yeah, he's definitely super dangerous. I agree. It's just that he's so good looking, Aman.
I mean, I feel you, sis. I feel you because I mean, he is good looking. He is, but you got to remember what you're here for. But it's definitely not looking. The fact that she really harped on it multiple times in the night is not very. It's not convincing, and especially when they said goodnight to each other, like he like got on top of her and like hugged her for like 10 whole seconds, and I'm like, y'all. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's looking like they're looking pretty close.
Amon is trying to simulate a Jack hug right now.
I'm just saying that's what I witnessed last night. So
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I good on Holly though for really, really trying to drive that home because I think that she has the correct read. I think especially because of the fact that Christy is the HOH, the first HOH. If you're able to, really be a chill HOH in the first week, that really helps you sort of like maintain a level of control throughout the rest of the game. We saw Tyler do it last year. And since she's pretty close with Jack, like I think Holly is correct in assuming that like if we don't do something about it soon, they could run this house. So whether or not people are going to listen to her in regards to Jack is, another question. But I think it's a good read.
Yes, Holly is, from what I've seen here, a bit of a pot stirrer. That she seems to be our best hope for this alliance just crumbling, breaking apart. And I don't know how well that will go for her. I like it's good that she recognizes that Jack is a threatening force in the game. It's not great that she is so open about how she thinks that. So that could be that could put her in a precarious position moving forward, especially given how Jack has treated Kemi, knowing that Kemi, has said his name. That if this gets out, who knows what happens to Holly even as early as this week. So something to watch out for. Of course, we've got Mickey, as we've talked about, seemingly based on the episodes was the sort of head of this alliance. Not the case. It's more like Jack is the head of the alliance, sort of orchestrating things. It seems like Nick and Bella are more of like the brains of the alliance, sort of like the influencing voices within the alliance. And then you've got Christy as kind of like the current HOH, not necessarily the head of the alliance, but a very powerful figure in the alliance. And then Mickey is kind of just like the guy, the relic, like the old leader who's just kind of still hanging around, and he still has connections here, but he doesn't have much power from what I've seen in this alliance. He doesn't have much say, and I think that's part of why he's kind of like, yeah, I might be willing to take a shot. And I think, again, this is where the tension in this alliance might be created, is that Jackson Mickey feels a little bit left out, a little bit on the outside looking in, and might want to try to make a move to rectify that situation.
Yeah, I mean, now that he's not camp director anymore, you can definitely feel the oh snap, like I'm not the one that is making decisions anymore. Now it's kind of like moved on to somebody else, and I'm not really necessarily sure how I feel about that. Like, I mean, this is coming from a guy that said that he was going to try and win the first HOH and then win back-to-back HOHs with Jack. So like he's just he's obsessed with having power in the game. So not being at the head is going to be it's what's the term for, is it hubris? I think so.
Yeah.
It's gonna be his, it might be his downfall. So we'll see how he decides to handle this moving forward.
Yes. Now, it should be noted that Mickey is close with Bella, which might be the sort of glue that keeps him in line. If Bella decides to be that kind of player, which she might not be based on what we've seen. She seems to be somebody that's like, oh, really? Well, let me go blow your game up because of that. So I don't know how much she is going to be a stabilizing force, but she's definitely in the position to be one if there are cracks in the sort of Mickey-Jack relationship, because she seems to be on both ends of that. Apparently Mickey and Bella were talking about moving in together, that they're very, very close. And in that conversation, when apparently, based on what Mickey said, Jessica walked in on them, and Bella looked up like, oh, what? We weren't talking about anything. And this is one of the things that has founded Jessica's suspicion of some kind of alliance brewing. So let's talk about Jessica a little bit. Jessica introduced herself on the feeds to us as a player by going to Katherine, who seemed to be a bit on the outs and very clueless about what's really happening in the house. And it seemed like she was trying to subtly warn Katherine. Like, hey, there's more going on than you know. Don't trust Mickey. He doesn't have your back. There's some kind of alliance that he's a part of. Her way to subtly go about that was, oh man, I'm just getting like really negative vibes from somewhere. I don't know where it's coming from. Just like, do you know what an empath is? It's like I can just absorb people's energy, and I'm just feeling really negative energy. Almost like, I don't know, like someone's trying to make like an alliance. I don't know. That's just like the energy that I'm feeling. And I don't know. And so immediately Katherine was like, who? She's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm just getting energy. I mean, maybe it could be Mickey maybe trying to make an alliance. I mean, all I know is that he promised everyone who campaigned to be camp director that we would be safe, and then he didn't make us safe. And then I walked in on him and Bella, and they seemed like they were like conspiring about things. So I don't know. That's personally, I just feel like maybe there's some kind of alliance going on there. And so Katherine immediately was like, "Oh, I need to talk to Holly about this." And Jess was like, "Well, I mean, we don't need to necessarily bring Holly into this. It's just vibes and energy that I'm talking about. I mean, we don't necessarily need to talk to Holly." And then of course, Katherine just went straight to Mickey about it and said that Jessica was on to him, sort of like suspecting him of things. And of course, Katherine's way of asking Mickey about this was, "Are you conspiring against me, Mickey?" Which she says quite a lot, actually. So Mickey is aware of Jessica sort of being against him. He definitely has Jessica on his radar. But that was Jessica's way of trying to make some kind of move. She seems to be aware that there's something happening, does not seem to know what to do about it. So that's where Jessica is right now.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a lot of Devon, actually. Always sort of having some information, but not really having a proper sounding board, or someone to really talk through these things with in an effective way that you could actually do something about it. And I mean, part of it is that she's just she's not in that alliance. She's only out, so it's sort of, it gets hard. And even talking to Katherine isn't going to work, because Katherine, I mean, she has Holly, and of course, like, it's just it's when you're on the outs in the beginning of this game, like, you're kind of you're limited in what you can do. And the way that you went about telling Katherine, like, like, come on, Caitlin, with them hits. I see you, girl. Yes. Honestly, I just feel like it would have been a lot better if she would have just been like straight up, to be honest. Like, if you're gonna tell her, just be like, look, like, I'm really nervous. Like, I saw this. I don't know if there's anything really going on, but this is what I saw, and I'm worried about your safety. And I really think that maybe we should consider doing something about this. Like, if you want to save Katherine, then try and save Katherine. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe that's a wrong read, but I just feel like it's always better to just say it instead of like beating around the bush, because Katherine was going to say something anyway. Like, she already went and said it. Like, you might as well be clear about what you're trying to say before things get misconstrued. Then it gets back to you, and it's like, just be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not great, not super promising from Jessica early on here. We also, of course, saw a lot of Katherine, who also did not seem super promising on the feeds. As I mentioned, a ball of paranoia. She was busy doing makeup in the bathroom while the rest of the house was like, "Hey, Katherine, come on, we're about to play a game." And she was like, I'm doing stuff. I'm doing the makeup. And so they just started without her, and then she was literally just sitting outside of this big human knot that they were doing for like a good half hour or so, and not a part of it. She's not really fitting in very well, from what I can tell. She has her connection to Holly, and she has her thing with Mickey, but beyond that, she seems to be very unconnected in the house, and really just very aggressively paranoid. As I mentioned, she went to Mickey. She, in the few hours that we got last night of live feeds, she immediately was like, "Jackson, you would use the veto on me if you want it, right? Like, you're gonna use the veto on me, right? Like, you wouldn't betray me. Like, you wouldn't do that. You would not use the veto on me. You're gonna use the veto on me? Yeah. Okay, cool." And then later, after Jessica talks to her, "Mickey, you're not conspiring against me, are you? Are you conspiring against me? What's happening?" And he had to talk her down again. And then she would even just walk into rooms of people, just chatting, hanging out. Hey, you guys aren't conspiring against me, are you? Ah, that's a
Yeah.
funny joke, even though I sometimes say it seriously, which makes it seem like it's maybe not a joke.
Yeah. I, I, I feel for her because, yeah, I feel like at one point in all of our lives, we've sort of like been that person that's sort of been on, and I feel like that we like she's not the only person that's going through that right now. I mean, I noticed it with Kemi. Like Kemi will walk into a room and it's just not, she's not able to, integrate herself, and Ovie as well. Like Ovie was just, I feel like Ovie was using the baking cookies thing just to stay out of conversations because he can't get into them. So he's just like, let me just bake some cookies so people come to me, and even that didn't work. So it's just like I feel like I feel Catherine's pain, and I just wish that she could. I wish that, I mean, I know it's hard because you're on the block, like you're going to be paranoid. So I just wish that she could sort of somehow like wrangle herself in, and also like sort of like realize like, hey, you might not be the direct target this week, so reel it in, calm down, socialize, and just try and get your bearings, try and insulate yourself, try and remind people why you might be a good person to keep around. And just think that she's not doing that. I mean, even with the human knot game, like when she came out, she was like, oh, you guys started without me, you're conspiring against me. And I'm like, girl, it's just a game.
This is a very clicky house from what I've seen, that if you do not get along with the cool kids, then you're not gonna, like, in group settings they'll be friendly enough, but like if you try to like joke around, if you try to be like just like a friendly person, like, hey guys, what's up, they'll, after you leave, they'll be like, oh god, that guy.
Yeah, oh my God, it makes me so sad. It's just like, damn, like, and a part of me is like, well, I don't know, like maybe that's just like a little bit of like, oh, like I'm just gonna say that in front of these people because I just, I don't want to make it seem like I'm, friends with that person. But no, it looks like they're serious. Like they cannot stand Ovie. They do not like me. Kevin is getting on everybody's damn nerves. I'm just like, damn, like this is kind of tough. But that just goes to show just like how like you really like Big Brother is such a like hard game to play because you just have to be able to mesh with personalities that might not mesh up with yours. And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like Kemi and Nicole are sort of like have similar vibes going on. Neither of them talk that much, but for whatever reason, Nicole seems to have really sort of like been able to be amongst them. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to see how these always like happen to like how things pan out in the first couple of weeks in the game. So it's
Nicole,
yeah,
Nicole is a lot more willing to play their game, but they still have not like accepted her as one of them,
right.
and she is very much on the outs still, from what I can tell. But yes, very, very clicky sort of house. Katherine not doing super well there. Let's talk about Nicole. Nicole, as I mentioned, didn't have much to do. She didn't have. I don't think she talked game at all, really, last night. A lot was talked about her as sort of a wild card, somebody to be picked off eventually, somebody that they didn't know exactly what she would do. But I heard that she would use the veto on Cliff. That's great. She happens to go along with our plans. She is somebody that it seems like is going to try to win the favor of the cool kids over and over, and they are just never going to appreciate what she does for them. They're just going to use her.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm not glad that this might be her trajectory, but I'm at least glad that I got that right. Matt Lagori asked us to do some preseason rankings, and I was like, I'm really getting some Christine vibes from this girl. And then when we watched the first episode and she turned on Jessica so quickly for Mickey, I was like, well, there it is. And now, like, watching her on the feeds, I'm like, yeah, you're looking like you are going to be that soldier that just gets taken out at like final five. And I don't want to, like, you never want to see that happen to somebody. So like, I mean, it's still early, so like, we could be wrong, but as of right now, it's looking like she's, forward march.
Yes. And then we of course have Ovie. We started talking more about these outsiders. Ovie, as we talked about, on the outs of this clicky house. There has been talk that he is touchy in an uncomfortable way. Of course, we haven't seen any of this, and there's been a little bit of debate, I think, with Christy kind of standing up for Ovie a little bit. Like, she was saying last night that's like, hey, I was trying to just kind of like get out of the head space of that I don't like this person, and just trying to remember that he's just like us and he just wants to fit in, and he hasn't been as annoying to me lately because of that. And then other people are like, no, he's annoying. He annoyed the crap out of me. And there have been, you know, I think it might have been, I think I was just seeing Holly said, according to BB Daily on Twitter here, while we were talking on the update, that Holly said, Nick can grope me all day and I'm happy, or any of the other guys. It's just not the same with Ovie. That's because Christy had said that Ovie touches people just as much as anybody else, but I guess either the quality of the touch or just who he is. I don't know what it is exactly, but something about it makes some of them feel less comfortable than the other people who are touching them. So either way, not a great thing to go on here. Not what you want to hear, and overall, it's not looking good for Ovie here in the house.
Yeah, it's not. I think Annalise also had a similar, sentiment. She just feels like she feels like she can't. And one, like, going back to Christy real quick, I really appreciated the fact that she said that, and that, like, look, like, we just have, like, she offered perspective. Like, she's just like us. We're all strangers in this house living together. We're all trying to, find a way in and, fit in. And I think that that's something that will take her very far in this game, is being able to sort of empathize, even in a situation where you are clearly against this person, offering that empathy. I feel like if she makes it to jury, she will, like, I'm hopeful that we see some really good, authentic jury management, and not like some butter you up before you walk out the door. I honestly feel like, because I got this vibe from her during her interviews as well, and that she really she likes people, and she never wants people to feel like they are lesser than. So, like, I'm hoping that she continues to have that sentiment going forward. But as far as Ovie, yeah, like, Annalise even said that she just, like, he takes it too far, and that she's afraid to, like, give him any leeway because she feels like he takes it the wrong way. It wasn't a good look, sis, that you were like, only hot people can touch me. That's not a good look. You don't want to go and judge people on their appearances. But yeah, it's not looking good at all for Ovie, and it makes me sad because he was my winner pick.
It's very strange because, everything that I've heard about Ovie, I've had a few people message me like, I know Ovie. He's a great guy. Very popular at school. He was the, student body president. He's got, a lovely girlfriend who he seems to love very much. She was tweeting out the other day that he has scheduled emails to be sent to her while he's in the house, like saying, I miss you and I love you, which is adorable. Like, it seems like that this shouldn't be happening, but for whatever reason, everything is just failing for Ovie here, and he just is not fitting in. Personally, I just haven't seen enough of why that's the case.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just I wonder if it's a simulation or a situation similar to BB19, and that you just take one little thing and you magnify it, so that, like, you, like, demonize them so much that, they're part of the out group, they're part of the out group, part of the out group, and that way it's easier to send them along the way. Once again, I feel like the theme of this freaking podcast is, I wish we could have seen the first week of feeds, because, like, there really is no. I mean, and also, like I said, Ovie didn't really do a lot last night. Like, he would come and talk sometimes, but most of the time he was in that kitchen baking them damn cookies. So it's like, we can't even really see too much of his interaction in a group setting and with individuals. So it is very strange.
Mm-hmm. And I couldn't even tell you, who he has a connection with. Christy in the feed leak said that he was close to Cliff, but I didn't see any of that on the feeds last night. I didn't see him really being close to anyone in particular. He did talk with Tommy a little bit. It seemed like Tommy was probably the person most willing to talk to him. So maybe there's a little bit of something there. They are both fans of the game, but And I didn't see Tommy talking about Ovie in the same way that everyone else was, but he was also not really in that group setting as much. So I don't know if Tommy feels the same way, but not looking great for Ovie here. Cliff,
Yeah,
though.
I'm just looking at this real quick. I'm looking at this little diagram that Nikki, friend of the podcast, made,
Yes.
and Ovie isn't even on this damn thing.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you.
Yeah. But Cliff seems to be doing pretty well. You know, it's funny because Cliff came into the game saying, "I really hope that it's not like essentially a cliquey environment where people are just looking for people to outcast because I'm going to be one of those people. It's going to be better for me if there are competing alliances." And I agree with that sentiment. But despite the fact that it is what he did not want it to be, he seems to be doing all right. He is on the block, which is obviously not great, but he does have a lot more connections than anyone else on the outside that I can see. Maybe not more than somebody like Sam, who seems to be very entrenched in this sort of bro-y group, but a lot of people really seem to like Cliff, and they definitely don't want to see him go. Jack obviously talked about wanting to keep Cliff around with Sam. We heard Holly say that she felt like Cliff was like her father in the episode last night. I don't know if that has stuck around. She didn't really talk about Cliff too much on the feeds, but a lot of people talked about just loving Cliff. He seemed to fit in with the group pretty well for the fact that he's twice most of their ages, and so. It does seem as though as long as he survives this week, and he's not a victim of some kind of weird Tyler Crispin weird flip in week 1. He seems like he's in a pretty decent spot, but beyond that, I'm still not entirely sure what his game even consists of. We know that he has a lot of connections within this group. Maybe he's hoping that it breaks apart. Maybe he's just struggling to survive, or maybe he does have something going on the side that we don't know about yet, but he does seem to have some amount of ammunition at least.
It just seemed like his game primarily last night was to stay awake. It seems like to me. So, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, he could have like his claws in something. I think it was I forget which Twitter account posted this, but it was so funny. It was a side by side. It was a picture of Kevin, Paul, and Jason sitting next to each other, like all side by side in the lounge. And then there was a picture of Cliff, Nick, and Sam all sitting like in the same order. And I was like, you know what? Correlation. So we'll see.
There you go. Obviously, apparently people think that Nicole will use the veto on Cliff. Apparently Cliff said that he would want to choose Jack or Nicole to play in the veto because he knows that they would both use the veto on him. So he seems to have good connections with Jack and Nicole. Honestly, I feel like Cliff might be our best hope for a sort of counter resistance kind of alliance. He seems to have connections to a lot of the outcasts, but also with some of the people within the alliance itself. So we'll have to see where that goes. But obviously now is not the time to be organizing that sort of thing because he's on the block. So that's going on with Cliff. We also have, of course, Bella. Bella's a good person to talk about. She is, as we talked about, is sort of really entrenched in this, 6-person alliance. Really one of the more central people in it. She gets along with seemingly everyone inside of this alliance. She has connections with Nick. She has connections with Mickey. She's got, Jack. And then, of course, Kemi. There was a lot of Bella and Kemi talk, and there have been comparisons, of Bella to like, is she a Brittany Haynes? She's certainly good at the trash talking, and I can kind of see that comparison, but so it seems like that Kemi seems to be like a little bit of like the person that Brittany bounces things off of. She usually has one or two of those a season, but normally Brittany doesn't betray those people.
Yeah,
Is the only thing.
Lies the rub.
But they are trash talking together. They are really like they are trash talkers in a fun way. Like I wish that they were actually working together. You know, it would be really fun. But Bella does not seem super hot on the idea, and it is, I'm sure, these trash talking sessions that has partially the cause of Kemi being in hot water to begin with, because Bella cannot be trusted. But so she has Kemi to some degree. She's within this alliance, and nobody seems to be looking at Bella as a target too much, except for Katherine. Katherine doesn't like Bella, and that's because she's, I think, jealous of Bella and Mickey's relationship. You know, when she went to confront Mickey about, you know, are you and Bella in an alliance? His response was, no, we weren't making an alliance. We were talking about moving in together after the show. Oh, that's such a relief. I'm so glad you cleared this up.
And then on top of that, you're like, well, she just keeps giving me dirty looks. And he's like, oh, well, no, she's just like that. Well, then how would you know if you guys aren't spending uber amounts of time together? Like, come on now.
Yeah, she's like, I never see her give like other people looks. Like, she doesn't give you dirty looks. He's like, well, you know, we're moving in together.
Smooth. Very smooth.
Yeah. So that's going on there.
I can't with people. I really can't. Like, at least learn. Like, people have to learn in this game. I know that some of them are recruits, but still, you have to learn how to tell a lie effectively. Do not contradict yourself in the next sentence. What are you doing? Think before you speak. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. So we also have, of course, Sis, who is Annalise. My main concern with Sis coming into the game, I liked her. I liked her, what she might have to bring to the table. I was concerned at how young she was, and I very much got the sense on the feeds last night that her youth is very much a big factor in her game here. She is very much the little sister of the group, and I think she is very content to be there. Very sort of...
Yeah, she's what I thought Ovie would be doing.
Yeah, except not... It doesn't seem to me like she's doing it on purpose. It seems to me like that's just who she is. And that she's kind of easily influenced and kind of along for the ride. Very social, very likable. I think that she'll be here for a while. I think that nobody's going to be looking at her as a threat. And I think that she will be, she'll be getting along with whoever the majority is for a while. But I don't really see the killer instinct, the sort of like take initiative kind of player that I would like to see, but we'll have to hold out some hope.
Right. I mean, I feel like I could see her really, sort of like coasting this entire time and then winning the double eviction HOH and then blowing her game up. I could see.
But like she seems to be close with Holly. She seems to be close with Nick, and just in general, like that big group of 8. She was the one that talked about the 8 more than anyone else. She is very I think she's very kind of like surface level, like invested in this alliance of 8. Loyal soldier, gets along with all of them. I think she'll stick around. Of course, we've talked about Christy a little bit. She's HOH. She's connected to Jack. She has this secret connection to Tommy a little bit. It is still secret. They are still keeping it under wraps. But Tommy has been brought into the alliance. But again, it doesn't seem like they're very publicly connected, which is very smart, even though they are now in the same alliance. And I really do feel like this is a very powerful connection in the game. This could be a game-defining connection. I really feel like, again, having seen very little of the feeds thus far, it feels to me like the real power in the house, the real fulcrum of where this season is going to, pivot around is going to be this Christy, Tommy, Nick, and then maybe Bella is added in there as well, combination, because I think that Tommy and Nick are both seemingly very good socially, and I know that Tommy is a very strategic player. He's got Christy, who is very good as well. She's got a lot of connections, and then you've got Bella, who's also situated centrally and in a good spot. So if Nick and Bella are as connected as it seems, I really feel like this group of people are all very smart, are all very capable, and are all very connected, and
all into the game. Well,
not an obvious group together as well. So I think that they could be the people that we're looking at in terms of if we're going to talk about pillars of strategy or anything like that. So we'll wait and see about that. But it's kind of the vibe that I'm getting at the moment. But yeah, so Christy seems to be doing all right. Nobody's talking about targeting her or anything, but that's pretty much usually how it goes when you're HOH for 2 weeks, is that people forget that you even can be targeted. But of course, we did hear Mickey say like something along the lines of, well, week 3, if I had a secret power. So that's not great for her, but he did walk that back. But she seems to be all right. It doesn't seem like she's in a terrible spot. She openly talked about playing Jack, that she was not interested in him, even though he was kind of interested in her. I don't know how well that's going to go for her. Again, she talks a little too much for my tastes here, a little too open with her plans and strategies, but beyond that, she seems to be doing all right for now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that she's probably in one of the best positions of the house. She does talk too much. I really wish that she would stop doing that, because it's just not a good look when you keep telling everybody how much you want to win. It's only going to. It's like when you shine, you give other people permission to shine, and they're only going to want to be like, well, you know what, bitch, I want to win too. So bye. So I'm hoping that she calms that down. I'm happy about Tommy's position. I think that I'm glad that he's sort of like able to leverage Christy's relationship into being a part of this wider alliance. I think that he when the both of them sort of like convened in the kitchen really quickly, and he said something along the lines of like, I think that we could I think we could make it to final 2. It's like, you know what? Like, normally I'm like, when people are talking this early in the game, but I'm like, maybe if you're able to both like stay above the fray like this, because people aren't really talking about Christy, people aren't really talking about Tommy. We have a long way to go, but if you can maintain this level of decorum throughout the rest of the game, or at least in the beginning portion, you can go a long way. So I'm interested.
Yes. So talking about Tommy, I personally feel like he is probably in the best position in the house right now. He has 2 very secret final 2 deals, which is fantastic this early on. With Nick, where apparently he knows Nick's real job. This is a very tight connection, a very secret final 2. I don't think Nick is going to tell anybody about it. They don't seem that publicly connected. And then, of course, one with Christy as well. That, again, very unlikely that this one gets out, because it would harm Christy's game just as much as Tommy's. So those are 2 very tight, very secret final 2s that are also not connected and not public, which of course goes along with secret. But even beyond that, like they're not publicly super connected. Like usually like secret final 2 is like, Dane and Anthony in Big Brother Canada 7, where it's like everyone knows they're like bros and they're basically working together, but also they have a secret final 2. But this is more along the lines of like, no, Nick has other allies who, he's more publicly connected to, but his real secret final 2 is Tommy, which might not be true. Again, we know very little, but based on what I saw, it seems like that's what it looks like. I'm remembering very early on in Big Brother 20, first couple of live feed updates, when I saw Tyler and JC come together out of nowhere when it didn't seem like they were that connected, and it looked like they had a secret final 2, and I was like, these 2 could be like the renegades, like the dominating force of this season. I'm getting vibes. I'm getting vibes here. It's very early, but I'm getting those vibes. So, Tommy seems to be very well situated. Again, also within this big alliance, also connected, very social and willing to be friendly with the outcasts as well, which is all great stuff for Tommy. He also talked about not wanting to win many competitions. One thing I didn't like from Tommy is that he said that openly to Christy. He said, yeah, I'm not going to throw competitions. I'm going to tell people I would never throw competitions, but I'm going to be throwing them for a while. And she was like, yeah, but I want you to win some vetoes at least. It's like, you don't tell allies that you're throwing competitions. They don't like hearing that. They want you to take the bullet for them. That's the whole point of having allies. So didn't love that, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you never really want to throw completely everything. I mean, you have to. Part of this game is, as much as it is a social game, you need to win at least a few. You don't have to win everything, but it's nice to have a couple of wins under your belt. So I'm sure he's probably going to, come out the bat swinging at least in one of these comps, especially if he finds himself in a position where he needs to save himself or somebody else. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that this is a bad read at all in terms of the whole thing with him and Nick and him and Christy. Like, I think that's how a secret final two should be. It's supposed to be a secret, meaning only you two are aware of it. Meaning that the rest of the house should not be aware of your final two. So let's hope that pans out the way that it should.
Yes. All right. So keep an eye on Tommy here, and we'll see how that goes. Of course, we talked a lot about Kemi already, but she did not seem to be fitting in with the group, unfortunately. She even mentioned when she was talking to Bella, like, "Hey, can you come out with me so I don't have to talk to other people?" Which obviously that's something you never want to see in the house. But at the same time, we didn't see the first week, and we don't know how much that grew from already being outcast. You know what I mean? Like, once you're outcast, maybe then you get the attitude of well, screw these people. It's not necessarily that she had that attitude going in. She might have been outcast first and then had that attitude. We can't really know that, but nonetheless, having that attitude is not the best. And she even talked about to Bella about hey, I'm getting the feeling that Katherine and Cliff are too comfortable. Is something going on? Are people saying my name? And Bella was like, nah. She's like, well, they wouldn't tell you, would they? And Bella's like, yeah, no, they wouldn't tell me. Obviously, I'm super close to you. Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah. So not great from Kemi there. And of course, then Kemi goes and says to Bella, I'm worried there might be some kind of alliance happening, and then proceeds to name 5 of the 8 people in the 8-person alliance. I believe it was Sis, Mickey, Jack, Holly, and Christy. That I think she named those 5 people. She said those 5 people are in an alliance. They're level 5. They probably have some dumb name like Muscle Milk, and they're working together, and we have to be really careful about them. And Bella, who is of course a founding member of this alliance, is oh yeah, those guys, not great to pitch this to the person that's in the alliance.
No, it's just every part of this game that you can succeed in right now, Kemi is failing at, and it's just damn it. I mean, Devon tweeted earlier this morning. She was like, I don't think that Kemi's antisocial. I think that she's just having a hard time relating to anybody in that house. And that might be the case. I mean, like you just said, we haven't seen the first week. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was she just not, was she too quiet and now it's too late? Like, when I was an RA in school, and one of the things that I always got during training was, you need to establish a relationship with your residents within the first 3 days. If you do not get it within the first 3 days, it's over. You're going to have to do serious work in order to get yourself in a position where you're able to, foster some sort of relationship with them. So I don't know if it was a case where she waited too late and now Because it seems to me like watching her last night is that she just could not find a like like a way into the conversation. No matter what the topic of the conversation was, there was no way for her to get a word in. It was like she would offer commentary on the conversation as opposed to being in the conversation. And it was just like, damn, like so I don't know. It's just frustrating to watch, but I don't know. Hopefully we get a little bit more insight in the later episodes. Because right now it's just not really a lot to go on.
Yeah, hopefully we get more than just like, oh, she didn't want to do a rap.
Yeah.
That's what we got in Big Brother Canada 7.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, was it really that? Was it really that? Like, and I mean, you know, granted, like the whole thing with Mickey, like, if you really did not go upstairs and talk to him, there really isn't much that can be said. He put you up because you didn't talk to him. Like that's such an easy thing to do. But in terms of the rest of the rest of the week and this HOH and how this pans out and how she becomes the backdoor target, when I'm quite sure that there are other people that have been throwing people's names out there. It's just there is no way that Kemi was the only person in that house throwing out names. So I just hope that we get some more insight in towards the end of this week.
Yes. All right. Of course, there's one more person to talk about, and that's David. David is just wasting away in a hotel room, doing his best to do his CrossFit workouts. Waiting for his shot to get back in the game. That's what David's up to. I'm pretty sure.
I like this whole like whacktivity comp type deal, whatever's happening on Wednesday, like please let it be like a comp to get back in. Please let it just be some because like if you're really gonna hype this up as something that's never been done before, please like, this is the only thing that would like make me feel better about the situation. That's the only thing. Because if you're gonna keep this man in sequester for like 5 weeks and then do a battle back, or like bring him back each week only to participate in like some sort of like weekly activity, like y'all are actually at camp, like come on.
David is on the dunk tank. Hit the bullseye and David gets dunked.
Right.
That's how you win HOH.
Right. Like I don't care how big of a fan I am of this show. If that were me, I'm walking off set. Nah. I have a whole summer that I could be doing something else, girl.
Yes. So we have a little bit of insight on what the whacktivity thing, and I hate that name, by the way.
Hey, what the hell is that?
Why do I have to say this? This is worse than the Pretty Boys. The whacktivity competition has already taken place, as far as we're aware. It was, I think, some kind of timed thing. Mickey did not compete in the competition, I guess because he was camp counselor or camp director or whatever. People are concerned that perhaps Ovie has a power that was won from the whacktivity competition. And as we mentioned before, Mickey talked about like, hey, if I win a secret power in week 3, then maybe I'll take a shot. It seems as though this is a fairly straightforward kind of thing. Whacktivity probably just equals winning some kind of power app, care package, whatever you want to call it. And it seems like the David thing is probably separate from the whacktivity situation, but could also be connected, but we're not sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait until Wednesday to see what's going on. I'm really trying to decipher whack. I mean, obviously it's activity and whack, but like, what is the whack part? Like, do they have to whack something, or
I think we're reading too much into it. I
are they
think
just making fun of themselves because this is a whack ass name? Like, I don't know.
I think they're just like camp, right?
Yeah,
it's whack.
it's campy.
All right. Anything else that we need to talk about, Aman?
No. I think that was rather thorough. I've definitely walked away, with my thoughts all in order. How
All
much
right.
have we missed a bunch of the feeds so far? Like, how long have they been awake?
They woke up. Like I said, I think they've been up for about as long as we've been updating. So
Damn. So we have like a whole freaking an hour and a half.
I think they're just drinking coffee.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
But But yes, so that's what's going on in the house. It's interesting. It's interesting. There is definitely a dominating force, this big alliance in the house, but hopefully there are some cracks. But at the same time, there are some binding connective tissue pieces in there that might keep it together. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I want to thank you all for joining us this morning on our first live feed update. Again, if this is your first one, this is not generally how it works. It's usually a lot more event based, but we're trying to cover essentially like the last week and get you caught up to speed on where these people are and even who these people are. So that was today, but tomorrow it will be a lot more of like, hey, this person won the veto and these are the talks that are happening, and sorry, but it looks like Kemi is a goner. Which is probably going to be tomorrow's update. But hopefully not. Hopefully it's like, oh, some crazy stuff happened and Katherine just like blew the whole situation and Holly's in trouble and oh my God. So you never know. That's the beauty of the live feed updates.
Yeah, we can only hope.
Yeah. All right. So thank you once again for joining all of us here. You can find Aman on Twitter at Aman Adwin. He is a great follow on Twitter. You can find me at Armstrong Taran. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I was live last night, late into the night, watching the feeds and chatting, hanging out with you guys.
I don't know how you do it, Taran. I really don't. My eyes were drooping, baby. I was like, oh my God. I used to do this all the time. And as recent as last summer, I don't know, I think it's maybe because I'm sick. Because like I was having such a hard time last night. But I did it. I did it.
And of course, make sure you check out the Taran show, where the most recent episode was me talking with Dan Giesling. Yes. Check that out. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. I'll see you next time.